They're yellow leather.
Welcome to Lighting for Profits, presented by Emery Allen, with your host, Ryan Lee, your number one source for all things landscape lighting. From lighting design, install, sales, and marketing, we discuss everything you need to know to start and grow a successful landscape lighting business.
What is up? What is up? My party people of the world, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the number one landscape lighting show in the world. Still standing. We're here live on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station. Of course, we're presented by Emery Allen. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. And welcome back to the studio, Steve Perkins.
What's up, Brian?
This is becoming a thing.
But I'm still waiting for two things. I'm waiting for my name on the intro credit.
Right.
And for the check to clear. Those are the two things I'm waiting for.
Okay. I could probably, I don't know, like I got to get a hold of that guy on Fiverr to add your name.
It's not worth it.
It would sound pretty cool with Ryan Lee and Steve Perkins.
That's pretty good. We don't need a Fiverr guy. You can do it.
I am Fiverr. But yeah, man, it's been actually really fun having you here. So I think it adds a new element, and you know, a lot of people are chanting your name outside, and
I every time I walk outside, I'm recognized. Are you the guy from Landscape Lighting Secrets? And yeah,
and
it's fine.
The funny thing is, it's lighting for profits.
Knowing the name of the show is the first step in becoming a good co-host. So
yes,
good call.
Maybe next week.
Maybe next week.
Well, it is good to have you. I think that you add a new element, a new perspective, and we're gonna talk about some of that stuff. So today we're gonna have Nick Cavuoto. I think that's how you say his name, right? He's a personal branding expert, and
really?
yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing, but I actually met Nick sometime this last year, and I actually met him. He was using his strategies. I found him online. Lately I've been meeting all sorts of guys online. My wife seems to be okay with it.
That did not come out the way you thought it was going to come out.
Well, anyway, it happens. Okay. I'm meeting all these guys online, and he's got some really cool stuff that I've used, and I've actually hired him for some stuff too. So I'm excited to have him on here in just a few minutes. And we're really going to talk about how to create a personal brand that's impossible to ignore. He's a coach. He's an expert at personal branding and all sorts of stuff. Like, he's got just a ton of valuable information. So I'm excited to introduce him to the landscape lighting community. And I know you guys are going to love it. So I guess before we get started, what is it? Is it happening on this?
What?
I hear like an echo.
I'm not hearing an echo.
Hello? It's definitely my phone out there. But before we get started, I don't know how many people know this, but Thursday is Veterans Day. And I only have a show once a week, but I think that they should change it anyway. It should be Veterans Week or Veterans Month or Veterans Year. Like, it needs to be a big deal because there are some badass veterans out there, that have served, that are serving, whatever. And I'm just grateful for anyone that's willing to put their life on the line to protect this badass country.
Well said. Well said. It's one of those, like, I think we, like, you look like, I grandparents and things like that I think it was so a part of their generation. And I think a part of our generation, we just haven't seen the big wars and things like that. So it's quick to, or it's easy to forget or overlook. And you look at what those guys do on a daily basis. I completely agree. I think that's a good thing. So shout out for sure.
It's one of those things. So I never served. My grandpa did. And so, I've got like a little connection, whatever, but I've got a lot of friends now that have served. And I remember this was years ago. I was at the Jazz game, and all of a sudden, like, they made an announcement that it was Veterans Day and, like, stand up. And I was like, oh, I didn't know it was Veterans Day. And I'm like, man, like, I can't believe how selfish I am. I didn't know it was Veterans Day. Like, I feel like we just need to pause and pay our respects, because we take for granted. You and I, at least, we didn't have to, like, go to war. And the people that do sign up, it's not like they're volunteering, so it's pretty awesome. And I know a lot of people complain about who the president is, or America this or that, but honestly, like we live in a pretty badass country. I'm grateful for our freedoms, and it's thanks to those men and women that have served that really make this the greatest country in the world. Now, we actually do have other listeners and viewers from other countries. I don't know if you knew this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we're worldwide. We're pretty much worldwide. So I didn't mean to disrespect you if you're not in the United States.
Their country's probably badass too.
Yeah, I mean, except for Canada. No, just kidding. No, but all the other countries are great, I'm sure. But this is a pretty badass country. We have certain inalienable rights. Is that the word, inalienable? That we have right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And I, as a business owner, am grateful, because if it wasn't for those people who served our country, we would not have the ability to have those freedoms to run our own businesses and everything else. So thank you, veterans. What I want to do before we welcome Nick is talk about mindset a little bit. Ooh. And I did not give you a heads up or anything.
Not at all.
But I was thinking about this, and actually I had a whole nother topic until about an hour ago that I was going to talk about, but I was sitting there eating Chick-fil-A in my truck, and I came up with this.
That's where all great ideas come from, is that exact scenario.
I mean, how else do you build a multi-million-dollar landscape lighting company? It was all about Chick-fil-A and drive-thrus. But I remember when I started my business. Well, okay, I guess the question I want to kind of pose is, do we really know what is best for us? Like we think we do usually.
Keep going. Keep going.
Know? Okay, so think about that for a second. When I started my lighting business, my goal was just to make money. Like I just was like, okay, this is great. My first job out of college was with Steve Perkins. This is how we met. Okay. And I got a marketing degree because I was like, I'm going to get a degree and I'll be the first one in my family and everything else. And then I got that marketing degree and got that job. It was just like awesome. You remember that offer?
Yes, it was my exact. I got marketing degree out of college. First job was at this job that we worked at. They put us in a closet, called us the marketing department. And yeah, I mean, I remember thinking like, I've made it. I got a real job.
How much was the salary, Steve?
I think I started at 31,000 a year.
You got 31? I only got 30.
Maybe that was it.
You get a signing bonus?
It was, yeah. I graduated from Utah, so I got.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I went to
University of Utah. Go Utes.
So 30 grand, and it was like, this sucks. And I feel like day one we started looking for other jobs, but after that I got a job, and I was making 100 grand a year selling software, and I was like, dude, this is amazing. I'm happy, but I wasn't happy. So I just started getting into landscape lighting, and that was my goal. Like, how can I make 100 grand? And that was really it. And so I didn't have the goal to be like, I want to be a business owner and an entrepreneur, and I want to build a multi-million-dollar business, and I want to scale, and I want to sell the business. Like, none of those things crossed my mind. And so that's kind of what I'm getting at with our mindset, is we don't really know what's best for us. So sometimes when people give us advice, or we hear things or see things on social media, whatever, and some guys saying like, you need, like I tell people all the time, you need to grow your business, you need to scale. Like, and I think some people are like, you don't know who I am. So am I at a place? Is it my place to tell people that they should grow their business, or should I just be like, no, you're good?
Well, you've started a whole business doing so. So I would say the answer is yes, but no, I think we put limitations on ourselves. And I think a lot of it really boils down to fear. It's not necessarily they don't want that feedback. They're afraid of what that looks like. They're afraid of, if I go hire an employee, will I be able to pay that employee and be able to scale my business? And so I think we're naturally as humans just so used to comfort that we just don't want to be put out of that comfort zone. And so I think the answer is why coaching, and this is free plug for you, I guess, but why coaching works so well and why it's so critically important is to be held accountable and to have someone give you a perspective that maybe you don't know or you're uncomfortable getting to, I think can change your business or your life for that matter. Absolutely.
I mean, I appreciate the plug for coaching, but it's hard to even there's people in my coaching program that still don't want to be held accountable.
Yeah. Well, it's this dichotomy, right? Because you've got people that are saying, I started my own business to be my own boss. Don't tell me what to do. But the flip side is a lot of times they don't know what to do. And so it's kind of this push pull of how do you actually get over those hurdles or those humps that can we call them limiting beliefs, right? It's like I can only do this or I can't work any harder. And it's, well, what can you actually do to change the way you look at that? And I think that's something that takes practice and, like you said, takes a mindset of I'm willing to push myself outside the comfort zone.
Yeah. And it's tough, man. Even the guys that are in my program that don't want to be held accountable, I totally feel them because I don't want to be held accountable still. Like it's just natural to be like, no, I don't have to do that. So why would I do that? And you can put it off another day, another week, another month. Like even getting this office and hiring an assistant, and now I've hired a coach to be a coach in my program. Like I was still just like, man, do I really want to do this? That means I have to like start working again. Like people are going to rely on me. Is this what I want to do?
Yeah, I think we were just talking about this before the show started. There's this book called Atomic Habits, really, really good book. And it talks about just creating the right habits for success. And one of the things I liked, and when you said that, it said you have to standardize before you can optimize, which I thought was a good quote, right? And it's this idea of you have to continue to do something, you have to continue to push yourself before you can optimize. And then to put it in layman's terms, I think what essentially that's saying is we get in a rut. We do what we think is successful, and then we say, well, we want more. We want to achieve this, or I want to, like you said, sell your business, or I want to grow, or I want to hire an employee. And you get stuck in this. That seems so far away. That seems like completely opposite of what you're doing, or you have to overcome this huge, huge hurdle. And I think if you can just take a moment and say, okay, what steps get me there? What can I do today? What can I do, for 20 minutes today to get me to where I want to get to? And I think that's kind of the accountability, the coaching that helps is if you can look at something in a new light, you can kind of get over that hump. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, so just even you take me, like when I started my business, it wasn't to be like, okay, in 10 years, I want to sell this or anything.
Sure.
I just didn't even know that was a possibility, but it was certain steps. It was smaller steps because if I would have said like, hey, I want to sell my business for X amount of dollars in 12 years, I probably would have never, that's just too big of a goal. But if you do break it out and do step by step, it's a lot easier. In fact, there's a guy in my program. He's probably 6 months in now. And when he started, he was like, hey, I don't want to like take over the world. I just want to get better. And it's funny because that's what we
Sure.
usually just want to get better.
Yeah.
We don't really have an end game. But now that he's taken steps, he's hired more employees. He's raised his price. He's selling. Now he's starting to see it. And he's like, he said the other day on the call, he's like, man, I'm like, I feel like I'm like not myself because now I want to grow. Now I see why it makes sense to hire more people and how I can add more value and everything else. So to take someone from like, here to here is really hard, but just step at a time, all of a sudden you get to that situation. It's like that limited belief now is destroyed.
Yeah. And it's back to your original question, right? Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. And I think it's between your ears, right? It's again, I think we talk about this. It's a recurring theme. It's a lot of times it's just rooted in that fear, the fear of getting out of what you're good at or what your comfort zone is. And if you can figure out a way out of that, and again, the idea is not to do it all at once, but how do I take small steps to get there? You can get your mind to a point where it's like, hey, this is something I can do. So good question.
Love it. I don't know. It was Chick-fil-A or whatever. It was way better than the other topic.
It just decided between the Polynesian sauce and Chick-fil-A sauce. And that's where all of this came from. Getting deep.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I'm actually excited because this is like right up Nick's alley too. This guy, he's going to make us probably sound like fools, but we'll ask him about some of this stuff as well. And we're going to have Nick Cavuoto with Tenure Brands here on in just a minute, right after the break. So stick around, guys. We'll be right back.
There's more to landscape lighting than just throwing a fixture under a tree. The best display is one that was not only designed well, but also stands the test of time. High-quality fixtures and bulbs are key to long-term success and customer happiness. At Emery Allen, our focus is on creating only the highest performance landscape bulbs in the industry, with long-lasting components that don't degrade or flicker with age. Each bulb's appearance is always consistent throughout your lighting project. We offer a wide range of base types, beam spreads, and color choices that will fit your needs. To learn more, give us a call at 843-480-4473 or email us at info@emeryallen.com.
Hey, this is Jeff Hesser, senior contributor and co-host of the Weekend Review here on Turfs Up Radio. Can't make it to major green industry events, but want to stay connected? Don't worry, we have you covered. Be sure to download the Turfs Up Radio app or visit our website. We'll bring you the live coverage you need to keep you up to date with everything that happens in our industry. And to find out where we'll be next, simply visit greenindustryevents.com. That's greenindustryevents.com. And always remember, Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Hey everybody, it's Brooke Ford, host of the Green Veteran here on Turfs Up Radio. Be sure to check me out every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. You're going to hear some great one-on-one interviews with green industry professionals. We're going to talk about best business practices, highlight innovative products, and also provide some insight into some new emerging technologies in the field. That's the Green Veteran, airing each Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And remember, Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
All right. Welcome back. Whoa. Sheesh. Welcome back to Lighting for Profits, presented by Emery Allen. And welcome to the show, Mr. Nick Cavuoto. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, guys? Good to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
So glad to see you. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Wish you were here live.
Dude, I would have so been there, bro. I was just waiting for the invite.
I know. In a couple of years, I'll send my private jet to pick you up.
Deal, bro. Deal.
Well, man, I'm super excited to have you on. I was telling just quickly about how I met you, and what's cool is we're having you on as like how to be a personal brand expert, but that's how I met you. Like, I started seeing you online, and Steve makes fun of me because I meet guys online now, but like, it was awesome. So I've experienced like your process and everything you preach and teach and everything else, and I've experienced it firsthand to the point of like, who is this guy? How do I get a hold of him? How do I give him my money? Like, how do we become friends? How do we work together and stuff like that? So thanks for being here. I guess you want to just tell us about yourself. Who is Nick Cavuoto?
Yeah, absolutely, man. A lot of people ask me that question of like, so tell us, like, you're at like the pool with the kids on the weekend or something, and you meet somebody new or whatever. And they're like, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, I do a lot of things, but let me tell you about the people who I love to serve and really go to battle with. And those are people who are up to something. Like, I think there's this, quote that you can't do epic things with basic people. And I honestly believe that. Like, I'm an activator, a maximizer. I love helping people accomplish audacious goals. In fact, so much so that if there's not someone who's trying to achieve a business goal that's very clear and definable, I won't even work with them, because they end up losing the positioning on what the value is and why they hired you in the first place. And so really, how that shows up in my world is as a speaker, as a consultant for Fortune 500 companies, and all the way to unicorn startups. In addition, I'm an investor and I have multiple businesses. So there's a lot of different facets. It's kind of being the 5-tool player in baseball. There's a lot of stuff I can do. Coach, you want me to steal? You want me to hit a home run? What do you want me to do? So I'm really adaptable for the teams that I collaborate with. But at the end of the day, I'm in the business building business, and I'm also in the business of belief. That's having audacious belief in individuals and people. But in addition, into the unique problems that a company might face, a lot of them have been sitting on stale strategies for God knows how long, maybe 7 years, and they need someone to come in and kind of be a renegade and change the game. And that's where I'm very seasoned in that approach. So yeah, man. So I love building businesses, and I love establishing crazy high belief in people.
Yeah, I know. Not obviously conversations with you, but even just watching your videos and following you online and stuff like that, you are big on belief. Steve and I were talking before about limited beliefs and stuff like that. Are there any just like common limited beliefs that people have out there that's just like, that's ridiculous, like you got to crush through that, and here's how to end that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's 4 core beliefs rather that most people adapt in an early stage in life from 6 to 9 that end up disrupting their future when they become an adult. 2 of those, which I know very well, are that I'm not enough and that I'm unable to be loved. The other ones are that I am born with some type of defect or flaw. And I can't remember actually what the 4th one is. But there's 4 common beliefs that are misunderstood, misinterpreted, that totally, end up causing a lot of pause. I think people used to experience a midlife crisis when they were like 50. Like I remember my wife's uncle who bought like a yellow S2000, and he was like, F it. Like I'm buying this freaking amazing car. And kind of amazing, kind of not. No offense to anybody who has one.
Yeah.
But in reality, like that used to happen to people like in their 50s or mid 50s. And now it's happening, I feel like, with people everywhere, like post-COVID world, right? Everyone was faced with a really deep question. Safety, the illusion of safety and control, which we truly don't have any. Tomorrow is not promised to anyone. But so many people felt like that was promised. I mean, do you guys know that 4 million people a month right now are leaving their corporate jobs? 4 million a month in the US. I mean, God, how many people are employed by corporate America? Maybe 100 million at max, 4 million a month. I mean, we're going to have a serious problem here.
Yeah.
Like, right. It's called the Great Resignation. And it was because people were forced to ask themselves a question that they were distracted by being in commuting traffic every day for 2 hours in big cities. They had their guarantees, they had their pensions. But what happens when all of that's gone? You're left asking yourself some hard questions. It starts external first. Like, how am I going to make money? Like, what am I going to do if I lose my job? Then it goes to internal. Wait a second. I really enjoyed being around my kids. What do I want? And then a philosophical question of like, what was I created to do? And that's the question that's happening for so many people right now. It's not necessarily the Great Resignation as we've heard it before. I kind of think of it like this way. It's like the Great Reshuffle. Yeah. Those people aren't just disappearing. They're just doing something different. And it is the number one conversation happening in the world right now that no one is talking about.
Yeah, I mean, as I hear you say that, I tend to agree. Is that scary? Is that like you said, like it could be a problem? I mean, I like it because I didn't do that. When I started my business, I didn't ask myself the hard questions. I just started working. And I've found that like a lot of our listeners, a lot of our viewers, they kind of doing the same thing. It's just like, how can I do a little bit better each day? But it doesn't really, there's not a goal in mind. They don't really know why they're working. Like, why would you work 80 hours a week? We tell ourselves it's because we like what we do, but still a lot of hours.
900 million people in the world hate what they do with a visceral response, hate their work. 70% of the United States of people actively working in the United States do not enjoy their work. On a scale of like less than like 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, they do not enjoy what they do at all. Like what's happening is it's all surfacing because it's like bottom up, it's pushing up and it's going into the standard conversation. People don't know what they want. That's the actual problem.
Yeah.
Is that people have not given themselves permission to know what they want. When you live with a common wound of the concept around core belief that I am not enough, you seek external validation constantly. Even if you are like, I don't need validation from people. I thought I was that type of person where like, I don't give a crap what people think about me. In reality, I do. And I've had to come to terms with that. I mean, I've been in like constant therapy for years because of 2 reasons. One, if there's anything in my past that needs to be uprooted, I want to uproot it. And the second thing is I don't want it passing to my kids. I got 4 kids. I'm 34 years old. Do the math. I've been way too busy. So I'm getting that taken care of next week. But the reality is this, that like a defining moment in what I truly want, I've been betraying myself for God knows how long, probably since my dad threatened to leave constantly when I was a kid. So what is the true version of me? If I can be a seeker and be curious and not judge myself in the process of trying to solve that, then I'll get closer and closer and closer to what I want every single day. But truly what I want is where the wound is. You want the wound to be healed? I want to be accepted and validated by myself without the thoughts, judgments, or opinions of other people. And in the process of doing that, I have to assess my work to be like, is my work solving that wound, pacifying it, Or is it creating greater illumination that allows me to be introspective and go like, oh crap, yeah, maybe this is something that I don't want to do. And then kids are in private school. I live in an affluent area in Denver. Like, what do you do with those realities? Well, I don't know. My belief is as such. God promised me when I was a kid, no matter what I did, I would be successful. That's bottom line, like number one. So I'm already going to win. I already know that. So I have a belief that is contending in that way. The second thing is I've had plenty of times in my life where I'm like, man, I got to figure it out for this month. I mean, I remember when I was at 100 grand in student loan debt, like having to pay those bills every month. I'd be like, I don't know how it's going to happen. Became an entrepreneur, paid them all off in 1 month. There's just a pattern recognition that like, no matter what I face, so as long as I believe in my belief system, for me personally, that there's something greater that has my back, it always delivers, especially if I'm willing to admit that I'm weary. Like strength requires sometimes that void, like where there's not a void, there's not a need. So if I'm like, man, I can't do this on my own. Hey, will you come help me? Whether that's a spiritual conversation or a physical one. If I need to call one of my homies and be like, dude, my business is A, B, or C. I need your help. It's amazing what happens when you step into that place. But yeah, the bottom line is people don't know what the heck they want. And that's the actual catastrophe. But people are being forced to question it.
So how could someone who either has a landscape lighting business, and a lot of these guys are, just been doing it themselves and hesitant to grow and stuff like that, or it's people that are, looking at the industry like, maybe I should start my own landscape lighting business or division. How do they get to that point where or how do they start to decide? Like, I'll preach like, hey, you need to replace yourself and you need to go from operator to owner and all this stuff. And even if you're not like, if someone doesn't want to sell their business, that's okay with me. But I'm trying to get them to realize that it's easier and actually more valuable business to their customers too. If they have a salesperson, installers, and office, like if they're just an owner, they're actually more valuable. How do I get them to realize what it is that they want? Right? Like you said, they don't know what they want. How do they start down that path at least?
Well, two things, Ryan, and you and I have spoken semi-candidly about this, meaning like we've had brief conversations around it. One way that's really tactical. So let me give a tactical form of kind of strategy advice. If you guys haven't signed up for Donald Miller's Business Made Simple, which is essentially like a learning module based tool, there's a massive concept on business being less complicated and more simple. It's a really good holistic resource for anyone who's building a business. And there's one section though, and you can get the book on this, which is a marketing book, and it's called Story Brand. Story Brand is essentially the hero's journey, and it starts defining and helps you understand what to define when it comes to what people want, because it's the number one question in marketing. Even if it's somebody who's prospecting a client who wants a lighting service for landscape lighting, even if that's someone they're prospecting, you have to ask the question, what do they want? People in my neighborhood, they don't have time. They have a lot of money. They don't have time. So number one, it's going to be something that has to do with time, frequency. It's going to be keeping up with the Joneses conversations. And I'm sure you train and educate on things that go far beyond that. But in reality, they're primal, simple things when it comes to time or money equation that usually starts the conversation. So in Business Made Simple, there's a Story Brand messaging guide that he takes you through this process of going like, let me give you an example. Now you write out an exhaustive list of different things you could imagine that they would want. And then you circle one. And you're just going to, just for the sake of the exercise, right? He gets you. Just like in therapy, they say, let's just do an experiment, because they know most people won't actually commit fully to one idea, because it's like, options or decisions in disguise. So they're like, I don't really want to solidify that because I don't know if it's going to work good on my website. And he gets you to just commit to the process of let's just try this. Let's just try this. And so it's a really good format that I've learned a lot from, but it starts with the question of what do you want? Most people who are coaches, consultants, or experts are trying to help a previous version of themselves. So for you, Ryan,
that's why it's easy to help, because
it's so easy because you've been down the road a million times.
Yep.
So for you, it's, well, what do they want? You have to assess your starting point and your individual story, which goes into the concept of what I teach in content training and storytelling, which is the story determines the belief system determines the values determine the actions. So that's like this stack that goes bottom up. The story of what they want is a story of where you were at the day that you made a decision to jump into business for yourself and go all in on you. Like that, they want that same thing if they're somebody who has not gone all in on themselves. The other story for you is when you decide to hire your first employee. The story determines the belief system. If he can do it, I know I can do it too. And he has the roadmap. A lot of this you've engineered very well, but there's also subconsciously you're actually doing the right things because you're a good human being and you truly want to help people.
I love it, man. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then I want to continue this conversation, and we're kind of talking about the story, and then I want to tie that into like personal branding and stuff like that. So this is awesome, man. We're going to do just a quick break, play some sponsor ads or whatever, and then we'll be back with Nick Cavuoto.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
We're going to let this play for a second. It's got a good beat drop here in a second.
Attention all pros. When you leave a deal with your clients, don't leave money on the table. Join Turfs Up Nation today and partner with pros all across the country who can help you make more money for your services that are related to your project. Landscapers need plumbers, and pool installers need hardscapers, and every combination in between. Turfs Up Nation is free. Your information is secure, and you'll be connected with other pros in the industry who want to do business with you. And not to mention property owners who need help with everything. If you think your clients don't need you and the connections you have, think again. Join turfsupnation.com today and start putting more money in your pocket for services you never knew you could. Just remember to sign up for this free service. Go to turfsupnation.com.
Isn't it nice when the weather cooperates and crews complete jobs on time and on budget? But weather can cause delays. And with paper route sheets, jobs get lost in the shuffle. That's why you need Aspire Crew Control scheduling software, an easy-to-use, flexible, and affordable solution that allows you to shift schedules with a single click. Try Aspire Crew Control for free at aspirecrewcontrol.com.
Hey everybody, this is Hecubus from the Nightcap. I'm just sitting here relaxing within the vault with my friends and a tasty, tasty pint. You should stop by and listen in sometime. I'm here every Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, live only on Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Welcome back to Lighting for Profits, presented by Emery Allen. I'm Ryan Lee. We've got Steve Perkins here, and we've got Nick Cavuoto. Nick, appreciate the conversation so far. We're getting into kind of story and stuff like that. I want to get to the personal branding thing. You've done a tremendous job yourself of doing this, and I've tried as much as I can to copy and paste your personal branding template into mine. But these guys, most of these people are just like self-employed, running their own business, and it's hard to like want to be like film ourselves and do that. But what advice could you give to someone on how, like, why is it important to have a personal brand, and how do they get started?
Yeah, man. Well, let me ask you a question in reflection before we jump into it, so I have better context. Why is it hard?
Well, I think it's hard because most people are not like, they don't want to brag. I mean, that's kind of the number one thing I hear is like, I don't like, I don't want to get on social media and tell everyone or show like all the good stuff, even though like my life does kind of suck. I don't want to just look like I'm faking it. I don't want to brag. They're afraid to get in the spotlight.
Okay. Why are they afraid to get in the spotlight?
I'm speaking for myself.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Why would they be, or in your situation, be afraid to be in the spotlight?
It's just, I was raised to think that was wrong. Like, you need to stay humble, and social media is this thing to it's where everyone goes to show off everything that's good, but they don't want to tell the bad stuff. And it comes across as, bragging.
Interesting. Okay. I could keep digging, but I think I have enough.
Let's do our therapy session.
He was for
later.
sure judging you, right?
Yeah,
Dude,
that was awesome.
dude, no, not at all. Because
Like,
you know what? You know what's wild, Steve? Like, this is something that everyone battles. And so what I'm looking for is context. Right.
I think you bring up a really good point, and I think another way of saying bragging, I think what I've seen a lot of people, and myself included, I think is you feel like you're not being true to yourself. Like if you'd go to a live, like you're pretending to be something you're not. And I think people get hung up on that.
Imposter
Absolutely.
syndrome.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome. This is why when I teach and train this process, the first thing that I tell people to do when it's in a consultative mode versus like a product or service, the first thing that I tell people to do is tell a personal story that's transparent to create connection with their audience. You know, think about it this way. Let's say that you were single and you're in the dating game. Do you want to show that person like the true version of you so that their acceptance of you and their appreciation of you is truly who you are? Or do you want to like go rent a Ferrari and rent a Gucci suit and take them out in hopes that they would accept that version of you? The same guy who says that he wants to be humble and do the right thing, be a good person, have integrity, like would never do the opposite, right? Of like renting and faking and all that crap. They would never do that. So the concept is you have to treat social media the same way. Social media is exposing people. That's, I think, of its greatest reward and benefit. It's exposing people. So good people will not be exposed for being bad people. So as long as they stay authentic to themselves. And the number one issue with most people who feel like they're not enough, they want to hide. Then their belief system, when you drill it back, goes to some principle that someone else gave them, a belief that someone else gave them that you need to stay small, which personally I disagree with. Because you're doing great work for great people. You're creating a great living for your family. You're fulfilling a very practical need that if you weren't doing that, the people that keep it up with the Jones people, for example, they'd have a significant problem that they wouldn't have a solution to. That's something they really care about. And so there's nothing bragging about high craftsmanship. There's nothing that's bragging about doing, essentially displaying a value of having a great work ethic and giving your best every day. That's something I would want to show my kids in the future. This is what daddy did when he was at work. These are the lives of the people who I impacted. You see me shifting the narrative, right?
I love it.
So this is part of the process. So when I can change the story for someone, I can change their belief system. And when I can change their belief system, I can change their values and or align them with the proper value set. And then their actions follow. Behavior modification doesn't work. It doesn't work in parenting, and it sure as hell doesn't work in business. Try it with your employees. Just always speak to the behavior. Good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. They're like they're going to lose their minds and go nuts. But when you have a set of values in your company that everyone abides by, it's a totally different experience. So my suggestion for people who want to get out there and or know that it's important, but are feeling so stuck, is truly to be the authentic version of you. The question is, what are you afraid of? And I know that a lot of times it's like, why are we even talking about, what do you mean? Like, what does this have to do? It has to do with everything. A lot of people don't like the spotlight because they don't feel like they deserve it, or they feel like there's something around that concept that they've judged in someone else, which is actually judgment of themselves. And this is why this is so important, the psychology behind it, the mindset behind it, and then the practical action. So step number one is to tell a personal story up to your level of transparency you're willing to go, so that you can create connection with your audience, but also so you go first. I 100% agree with you. People who share the highlight reel and are unwilling to have like a human conversation are not the types of people who I follow. I'm sure they're not the types of people that you follow. So for me, I look for a connection. It's scaling of human behavior of what I would do in my everyday life. People who are closed off and negative and whatever, people avoid them. So don't be someone who's worth avoiding. Be someone who's authentic and honest. And those fall in the same value sets of like, I don't want to be bragging, or I don't want to be overly whatever. It's the same value set.
I love that. Well, there's so many good things that you just said. Honestly, you could break down all sorts of them. But I know for me, my sales skyrocketed when it was less about the money and it was more about the impact. And when I was convinced at this point that I really was the best landscape lighting company in my market. I was doing a disservice by not letting them go with me. Like if they're like, let us think about it. And I wasn't a good salesperson, that they were going to go with someone else and they were going to get screwed over. And like, I'm a good person. I'm not going to let them get screwed over. And then I was willing to fight and be like, what is it? Like, why wouldn't you not give me a check right now? Let's do this. And it has nothing to do with the money. It's not like I'm like, man, I need this money. I got to buy a boat or whatever. That wasn't even in there. It was literally just about like me helping that family out. And I was so convinced. And then it's like your closing rate is 100% because there's no reason. Like, why would you not get that deal?
Yep.
I love that. I love the authenticity thing. It's been, so my journey, I've only been doing this online stuff, personal brand, all that for almost 2 years now. I had never done a Facebook Live or anything. I was just like the regular guy that was afraid of the spotlight, didn't think I was worthy, all that stuff. And it's still a work in progress. It's still not easy sharing and opening up, but I have found that the more authentic I am, the more people like me. And it's like,
do you know why that is? Do you know why that happens on a psychological and like foundational level? Do you know why they like you more the more authentic you are?
I would guess just because they see themselves, they're like, oh, he's human like me.
Yeah, they see themselves in your story, number one. And honesty and humility and integrity are like, you're willing to just be who you are. It's so attractive when people don't hide.
Yeah.
Think of someone who's maybe somebody who's attractive, but they're so freaking insecure. It's not attractive at all. And then I had a homeboy like in college who like was the doofiest looking dude ever. And this dude was freaking a slayer. And why? Because he was audacious in his confidence. What he projected was actually attractive because of his belief and his confidence in who he was. And so that's the same thing that's happening to your audience. They can trust you because you're being honest, open, authentic. There's no like vow there. There's no shield there. You're just being who you are. And that's incredibly attractive.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So this is really good. Like this content's awesome. I'm excited about this, but
I'm taking notes.
I am too. I literally have my phone out. I'm taking notes. But hey, I mean, think just how does someone start that journey of kind of developing their brand, Nick? Like, I mean, I'm listening to this, right? I'm driving in my truck, going, yeah. How do I apply this? What would be maybe just their starting point of like, how do they actually establish? Like, 'cause I think a lot, like to Ryan's point, a lot of these people are just they're just working it, man. They're just working it. They're working hard to build their business, and they feel like they're doing the right things, but they probably have never even looked at themselves as a brand. How do you get them on that journey?
I think that the easiest way without going philosophical and just being really practical is that this is your reputation at scale. This is your reputation in perpetuity, like ongoing forever. And you got to have a big enough why. You know, I think my first foundational reason why I was like, I'm going to put myself out there was because I felt like it's something I could like working long hours and like really pushing, you know, the limit and having kids. And I was like, I want them to have context on what I was doing. Because I don't care about reaching hundreds of thousands and millions of people and billions of people. I don't give a crap about that stuff. I care about the individual lives that are changed because of my work. So like when I can point to Neil, or I can point to Anna, or I can point to Val, point to Cameron, those individual stories, I look at them like monuments on the wall. And so if they were ever like, Dad, so what did you do like in our early years growing up? And maybe they run into a situation of where they're working through something. It's not my defense play because I don't play defense. It's the lowest motivator scout on anything that I have. Defense is 0. Like it's actually demotivating for me. For me, it's to inspire and motivate them to do their greatest work and that they can do everything. It doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes, but it does mean that you're going to have something to show for based on the work that you're doing. So for me, it was a legacy play so that I had like my grandfather recorded everything when we were kids. So like, that's like the new school way of like recording the journey and the experiences to then, you know, actually appreciate one day was a legacy play. So that's where it started for me. And the second thing that reinforced it to me was the 2016 presidential campaign, where I realized that people were the world's most powerful brands. And I realized that could be used for good or evil. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. It doesn't matter. COVID showed that people trusted Trump or they trusted Fauci more than the WHO. People don't trust businesses anymore. They trust people. And so you're kind of required in the age of the world we live in today. Kevin O'Leary talked about this. During COVID, they lost millions of dollars. So they went direct to consumer off of the personal brands. So his leverage point with also connecting brands outside of like Bed Bath & Beyond, which you couldn't even go to the store. So they did direct to consumer, and they went from 10% direct to consumer to 40% direct to consumer in 90 days. So they were selling off of the influence of people and funneling that into brands, because that's where the trust level exists. People don't trust companies and businesses anymore. They trust people. So you could be a name associated with a thing, but at the end of the day, the reason why Ryan's so good as a coach and also as a business owner is because people trust him more than his logo. They don't really associate that with anything besides that he's professional.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. So how can these guys get started? Do they just do a Facebook Live? Do they, what do they do to start connecting with their customer base?
Well, number one, they have to understand a very simple process that people do not buy products and services, that people buy you. It's your energy, it's your story, and it's your magic. So your energy is, are you a drainer or a driver? When you show up on a phone call with someone, or when you show up to their door, whatever the situation is for their circumstance, are you actually like draining those people because you're low energy and you're negative and whatever? Like, because you're never going to grow your business that way. We can settle that score really quick. The other side is, are you a driver? Are you helping them accomplish something? Are you the type of person who's up to something? Like, these are pre-filters. Let's call this the application to even deciding to build a personal brand. If you're somebody who's a driver, you're up to something. People who are successful and have money want to be around people who are up to something. They don't care if you're a trash guy, if you're a physician, or if you're the freaking president of the United States. It doesn't matter. They just want to be around people who are up to something and have good, positive energy around them. It's just a human fact. The second thing has to do with your story. So the story element is where you've got to ask yourself a really deep question. Are you willing to be vulnerable enough with the people around you, friends, family, colleagues, whatever? Are you willing to bear some of your skeletons in your closet outside in order to develop deeper, more meaningful relationships with the people that you want to reach? Yes or no? If it's no, then don't bother. And you will be limited by your inability and lack of desire to actually put yourself out there and to inspire people with a message that's transformational. Most people who have the accountant technical type of personality, this is very hard for them. And I feel you. I get it. I was a bridge between people who were introverts and extroverts my whole life. I've always been. I help a lot of introverts. I help a lot of extroverts. I find myself somewhere in the middle. So the cool thing is you can overcome that if that's something that you want to overcome. If you're sitting in the chair right now listening, going like, no, I know that I'm an introvert, but I still want to put myself out there, then awesome. Then you've got to have a story to tell. The easiest one to tell is wherever you'll allow your foot to go up to a line of being transparent. I've had people, and I'm just going to be real with you guys, okay? I've had people who have been molested as kids, and that's the first story they tell their audience, and they were radio silent for 2 years. This is real stuff, guys. This is like human behavior and human interaction at scale. I've had women who were physicians, specifically in the categories of IVF and reproduction and stuff, go tell a personal story about having 7 miscarriages, and they haven't even told their parents. And they were willing to put it out into the world. And Dr. Holly, who did that, she said her and her husband discussed it for 48 hours. They decided that was their launching point. They did a Facebook Live. They talked about it. She got over 50 DMs in 24 hours. They had their daughter was actually at their business every single day. They brought her into the practice, and people would look at her weird and why is she here? And like, she's disruptive, and blah. They don't understand their child that they did have is a freaking miracle. And what do you think the perspective was of those people once they found out? Like, well, I feel like a real a-hole. And not only that, but now there's a level of appreciation for Eleanor. They look at her different. It changed their freaking legacy, and it doubled their business from one story.
Yeah, I love that.
People are in desire of transparency. Now, the last step, and I'll make this quick, the energy, your story, and your magic. The magic is, what can you do for them? How can you make this experience the best experience of their life? Surprise and delight. Those are the things. So if you're willing to be vulnerable, do a Facebook Live, tell a vulnerable story. Guess what? All the skeletons come out at once. Because the minute that you do that, creating content is easy. And you went first. You didn't show the highlight reel. You shared something that was really challenging. I lost $1 million in 2 days during COVID. Both my businesses, flat. Built $1 million business in 2021 in 5 months and decided to shut it down last month. You think I want to go around the world talking about these stories? No, but I'm willing to go first and do it. Why? Because I believe if I can create transparency and connection with other people, then I can instill audacious belief in them so that they can go do the same thing.
So cool, man. So cool. So I got to do one last break. And normally we, say goodbye to you, but I've got some more questions for you. So we're going to.
Dude, I'm in, bro. I'm all gassed up, bro. I'm ready to go.
Love this. All right. So stick around and then we'll finish up the show. I'm not even going to do my lighting tip of the week this week because that's like inferior to what we're talking about. So I love this. We got just a little bit more time and then we'll wrap up with Nick here in just a few minutes.
Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The Weekend Review.
The Weekend Review.
Join King Darren and all of your favorite Turfs Up radio hosts, including Hecubus, Eric, the Turf Teacher Jones, Brian. My name is not Brian. Brian Lee, Wayne, the Prophet Bowles,
One opportunity.
his son Daniel, Brooke Ford, the Green Veteran,
Giddy up.
and many more. Join us live as we unpack the week and share what you may have missed live on Turfs Up Radio. That's the Weekend Review, Saturdays, 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Are you tired of working dawn to dusk 7 days a week and still struggling? Working hard isn't your issue. What you need to focus on is the business side of your business. That's where Profits Unlimited comes in. With our 42 years of experience in the industry, we have faced the challenges you are going through. We can help you with bidding, contracts, marketing, selling, and much more. Check us out at profitsrus.com. That's profitsareus.com when you are ready to earn what you deserve. And don't forget, tune into Profit Time at 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Remember, profit is not a dirty word.
Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Did you know that nonprofit Project Evergreen has thousands of volunteers across the country ready to help military families with lawn, landscape, and snow removal services? We call it Green Care and Snow Care for troops. If you are a military family and would like to receive this free service, or if you'd like to volunteer to help, visit projectevergreen.org. Project Evergreen, creating a greener, healthier, cooler Earth, 1 yard at a time.
Getting spicy here. Lighting for Profits.
Let's go.
Salsa. That's a first.
Just fixing it up, Nick's talking about energy. I want to have some good energy for the show today.
Hey, Nick, I've loved this conversation, so I'm really impressed, man. I kind of do a similar training, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. So I loved when you said it's Jeff Bezos actually has my favorite definition of brand, because a lot of times we think it's the logo or what's on the side of our truck or our slogan, and he says your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Mm-hmm. And I think we all kind of have these individual brands, right? Whether you're Amazon doesn't really have a Nordstrom type brand. They really sell simplicity, right? That's what they sell. That's their whole brand. Or Nordstrom's this really great customer service. Or in fact, an interesting one is Little Caesars Pizza has a really highly rated brand because they deliver exactly what they say they deliver, hot and ready, $5. And so I wondered if you had some thoughts of like, I'm in here and I think I'm driving, listening to this and going, what is my brand? You know what I mean? Because your brand may not be a Facebook Live. It may not be, you know what I mean? I think that's an easy place to start, but how do you establish your brand? Because I think people's biggest fear is they try to be something they're not. And we talk about this authenticity. So that's a really long way of saying, how do I kind of start to establish that brand so that I know exactly kind of how to move forward on building it out?
Yeah, it's really not complicated. And, Da Vinci said simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And look at Amazon. It's a sophisticated operation, but I press one button and all of a sudden 2 days later, whatever I want pops up on my door, right? It's the same way with brand. It is what people say about you when you're not in the room. It also is what we talked about earlier, which is your reputation at scale. What that means is your reputation multiplied, right? Kind of outside of your circle of influence. It's word of mouth at scale. But more than anything, it is exactly what you said, which is being authentically who you are, the good, the bad, the ugly, and, the positive and the uplifting and the, whatever, it's just the process of not judging yourself for, is this right? Is this not right? Should I do this? Should I not do this? How about you just show the heck up and you don't allow your, entrepreneurs that I know that are wildly successful. I'll use Elon Musk for an example. Elon Musk does not play defense at all. Like, I'm going to prove this to you. He sold PayPal for $150 million. That was his shares that when he sold it. $150 million. He took $100 million and put it in SpaceX. He took $40 million and he put it into Tesla. And he took $10 million and he put it into another company. I can't remember what it was. And he was borrowing money for rent. That's called offense. That's going all in. And we have people contemplating like broken systems in their head and just bullcrap stories that aren't true because their vision's not big enough. For me, all of this comes down to, what do you want to be the best in the world at? Let that sit. It might not be lighting, or it might be lighting. You know, for some people who are like marketers, it might be the greatest speaker in the world. No wonder they're playing so small. It's because they're playing not to lose. They're not actually playing all chips in to win. And that's the problem. It all goes back to a story. It all goes back to a belief system. And then when I ask that question, what do you want to be the best in the world at? The reason why you're not willing to go all chips in is because you're typically not actually sitting in that place right there going like, this is what I want. The cool thing is there's a process to get there. You can't jump from the bottom floor to the penthouse. There's a process. So whatever you're doing in your life right now, it's part of the process. You're exactly where you need to be. But I'm here to dare to make you think way, way bigger than what you're thinking right now. And a lot of times that's what suffocates the BS.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I mean, playing not to lose, that pretty much describes me for 10 years of my life, at least. And learning and acknowledging that and then doing something about it was transformational. So that's huge.
Yep. Do you think Tom Brady plays in the Super Bowl not to lose? Let's think about this stuff, right? No, he has a high challenge and he has high skill. That's why when 2017, playing the Falcons, fourth quarter down by 20 something, and they come back and win the game. He had the skill, he had the challenge, but he had one other thing, the 3D layer that no one talks about, is the belief that it was actually possible still to win when everyone else was giving up. That's a leader.
So once you start to like really get authentic, and maybe it's a Facebook Live, maybe it's a video, whatever, like, is there like a posting strategy? Like you do it every day, once a week, once a month? I mean, obviously you can do this through other ways, through emails and stuff like that. But for me, what I see is still effective is social media. What type of recommendations do you have there?
Yeah, I mean, social media is the Matrix. So let's dare to say the Matrix was a documentary and not a movie. At least that's my thought. It was kind of like Neo had to go into the Matrix, then he had to actually make peace with, how do I operate within this thing? But he couldn't get out of it either. Like, there were very short moments of when he would detach and then go back to reality, which was really this place of rubble and despair. And in the Matrix, you were like the superhero and you could do all these cool things and there were unique challenges and whatever. So it's kind of like the concept that like social media is not going anywhere. So I think more people need to make peace with the fact that they need to be a positive voice within that ecosystem and not one that's otherwise. So there are posting strategies. I teach, I give it away for free all the time. There's 13 different types of content that every single entrepreneur on the planet needs to make. And it starts with the personal story and it ends with the call to action. So it's really simple. The first three are really focusing on you as a person. Because people, what is the old Sal's saying? People want to know, like, and trust you. So if we can get the know, like, and trust factor before we ever talk about a product or service, that's the way that you can win over the hearts of people. The reason why I'm really good at sales is not because I'm tactical in my sales ability. I've never read a sales book. I swear to God, I've never read a sales book in my life. I've done almost $10 million in revenue for myself in the last 6 years. I'm really good at overcoming the bullcrap objections of other people by having high emotion and audacious belief. That's it. Like that's literally, I've had so many sales consultants tell me, because if I'm trying to scale sales and no one else can sell like me, they're like, dude, you are like really strange. And I'm like, why? Like, what? They're like, you're the best and worst salesperson we've ever seen. And like, you don't follow any strategy. You don't try to push people to a call to action. You just leave the door open and allow them to kind of make a decision. But then you tell them like, you got 48 hours to make a decision. Why? Because I'm not going to be putting around with people who aren't up to something. That's my reasoning. If you don't want to go, then we're not going anywhere. There's no point. So 13 types of content, know, like, and trust factor. Number one, you've got to share a personal story. You have to share a personal story. It's more about you than it is what happens to everyone else. The cool thing is when you're willing to share a vulnerable personal story, people come out of the woodwork to support you. They'll DM you, they'll message you, the dopamine confirmation of you going out and being honest and vulnerable. And then when people are like, I see you, I appreciate you, I validate you. Now all of a sudden you're bought into the strategy because you're like, this shit works, right? The second thing it really comes down to your lifestyle. Do you have kids? Talk about them. If you don't feel comfortable posting a picture, then put freaking emojis over their face. Who gives a crap? Talk about your lifestyle because people like to work with people who have shared in common experiences. The third one, as an example, comes down to your philosophy and beliefs. So, hey, if you're a faith-based person, then talk about your faith. Do a selfie Sunday, and like, hey, this is where we went after church. It's kind of like you just drop it in there. But those are 3 personal types of posts that will win over your audience. And then you get into your methodology, how you do what you do, getting people to take a micro step. Hey, comment on this, like this thing, do whatever. But guys, there's so many Facebook groups where you could be dominating and literally destroying your competition because no one's paying attention. And you're sitting here going like, what? Like, is it important to build a personal brand? Is it something that's worth it? I've done over 6 figures from my Facebook group, not even trying, just like, hey, there's a video we did. And people are like, friggin', oh my God, we want to work with you. It's ridiculous how easy it is.
Yeah. No, you're a prime example. Like I said, I mean, that's how I met Nick. I knew who he was. He was authentic. And it's like, you're either going to like him or not like him because that's who he is. And he's not doing anything. If you don't like him, it's still who he is. So I love it, man. Well, we are
just what you get.
We're already out of time. But before we end, I guess if someone wants to reach out to you, get a hold of you, you want to share your website or a way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. I mean, on social media, Nick Cavuoto, CAV as in victory, UOTO. You can find me anywhere on social or my website, nickcavuoto.com. We're having a lot of fun repositioning that whole thing. So there's some cool new things happening there. But yeah, feel free to reach out. And happy to just be a conduit for you and a sense of encouragement for you as well.
I love it, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on here and taking an hour out of your day. And look forward to doing more work with you myself. So thanks so much.
Dude, 100%, man. Much love. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. You guys have an excellent week. Remember to keep working on yourself. Keep moving forward every single day, every single week, every single month. We'll see you guys next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern here on Lighting for Profits. You guys have a good one.